New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Why, hello, it's me, yes, me, Bonnie Gonzalez, your doula for grief. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever time of the day or night it is where you are. I hope you're having a wonderful time. And if you're not, that's okay too. And if you're watching me, then yes, of course, you are ready, willing, and able to discuss grief right along with me. We are recording live today. We're being broadcast live today. So if you have any questions or comments, please just drop them in the comment box. And I invite you to make this time about you and for you. And I invite you to engage in the conversation, in the dialogue. I am here for you. So, again, back to me. As I said, my name is Bonnie Gonzalez, and I am a grief coach. I'm also a registered nurse, and I am a religious science practitioner, also a soul collage facilitator. And most important of all is that I am a human being right here with you right now, experiencing everything that's going on in our world, on our planet, experiencing it right along with you. I'm not removed from anything that's happening in the world. We're all having a life experience. So with that, I say, if this is your first time joining me, welcome. And I want you to know that you have come to the right place to begin your journey of healing from grief. And if you are returning, oh my goodness, I'm so honored. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You know how this dialogue flows, and every week I have a topic or theme. And so please make your comments or questions a part of this hour. And welcome and thank you for coming back. I am so honored. And you might ask, why and what is a doula for grief? And I'm sure you've heard of a birth doula, someone who is there like a coach that just guides you through that childbirthing process. And then there's also death doulas that walk with one who is transitioning from this life to the next best to come, right there with you for that. And I am a grief doula. I am right here with you, holding the light so that your path can remain illuminated, so that you're not overwhelmed by the darkness or succumbs to the darkness. So I am here. I am here for you, and I'm here to talk about grief. And my objective is to bring grief out of the shadows of our lives and bring it right smack dab into the middle of our lives. It's the elephant in the room that no one wants to talk about. Of course, we live in a culture that is just terrified of death, and even feeling like if we talk about death, that we're inviting it in. And I want there not to be any shame around the way we do anything. I just want to bring awareness, shine a light. As Maya Angelou says, when you know better, you do better. And this is what I had found out in my own life and my own personal experiences. As soon as I tell someone that I'm a grief coach or I'm a doula for grief, they start to share their stories. They start to share their stories around loss and grief in a way that it's suddenly like for them, it's like, oh my goodness, I can finally talk about this to someone without having them shrink away or look away, or feeling that, I'm sure you've been with people and you start to talk about a certain subject and you could just feel the energy dissipate or leave the room completely. People are just so excited. I'm trying to choose my words carefully. People are so relieved that they can finally tell their story without having to worry about being judged. And we're going to get to that a little bit later. I thought today we'd just do some grief 101, some grief housekeeping skills. I want to say that just having a good understanding of what loss and grief is, the difference in why we say loss and grief. So loss is defined as any expected or unexpected occurrence where you can't go back to the way things were before. An example is death. And I always take my hat off and honor death. That is the biggest loss that we will encounter as humans, a part of that human experience. That is the biggest. But there's also other losses that can devastate our lives and leave us floundering and kind of blindsided. And that can be divorce, a diagnosis of some illness, a geographical move, a natural disaster. You know, we've all just, I know that people are consumed about the war between the Israelis and the Palestinians, that has just, people are really saddened by that and the horrific loss of life. And also the birth of a child, puberty, graduation, a job promotion, all of those things shift our lives, and suddenly there's that loss of having been single, that loss of maturing and growing older. In graduation, you're no longer with that group of people that maybe you've studied with for many years. Suddenly, you're thrust into a new group of people, and you feel that grief for your old family of friends. And the same with the job promotion. Suddenly again, you're in a new arena, and maybe longing for that old arena where things were comfortable and you knew your place and knew what to do. And that also brings up a loss of identity, different things that puts us into the loss of identity. And so loss is what we experience, which in turn puts us into grief. And then what is grief? And grief is defined as a collection of normal emotions that follows a loss. It can include sadness and anger, but also it includes some numbness, confusion, anxiety, guilt, and joy. Yeah, joy, that even comes up. I had a really lovely gentleman that felt that there was something wrong with him because he was happy that his sister had finally made her transition because she had suffered for so long. But those feelings were not shared by others. And it left him feeling like, wow, what's wrong with me? So even that, yes, joy can be a part of our grief process. And just want you to know, just have some understanding that yes, loss is what we experience and grief is what we feel. And so just sitting with that, looking around at your life, just doing a little inventory of your own life to say, wow, what losses have I encountered? What's going on here in my life? I like to refer to it as taking inventory, not judging in any way, but just taking inventory. You know how the stores, well, in the old days, I worked in a five and dime, if anybody remembers that term, but we would have to close to take inventory to see how many supplies we actually had on hand, how many things had sold, how many things need to be ordered in the future. So sometimes stopping to take inventory of your life as to what losses have you encountered? What have you not grieved for? And our losses do need to be grieved. They do need to be grieved. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what to say and what not to say. I have this beautiful handout from Shelby for Cynthia, who put together a really good collection of things of what to say and what not to say. And we'll get to that. But I thought, since we're talking about what causes grief, that loss causes grief. And I've read this to you before, but you know what? It's always good to revisit some of the things that we have discussed. And this one is called A Splinter of Love by Mark Matusik. And it was taken from a magazine article in Tricycle, Buddhist magazine. So, in the words of Mark says, grief may be the greatest healing experience of a lifetime. It's certainly one of the hottest fires we will encounter. It penetrates the heart layers of our self-protection, plunges us into the sadness, the fear, and despair we have tried so hard to avoid. Grief is unpredictable, uncontrollable. There are no shortcuts around grief. The only way is right through the middle. Some say time heals, but that's a half-truth. Time alone doesn't heal. Time and attention heals. In grief, we access parts of ourselves that were somehow unavailable to us in the past. With awareness, the journey through grief becomes a path to wholeness. Grief can lead us to a profound understanding that reaches beyond our individual loss. It opens us to the most essential truth of our lives, the truth of impermanence, which is the causes of suffering, and the illusion of separateness. We're not separated. We are definitely part of the whole. When we meet these experiences with mercy and awareness, we begin to appreciate that we are more than the grief. We are what the grief is moving through. In the end, we may still fear death, but we don't fear living nearly as much. As in surrendering to our grief, we have learned to give ourselves more fully to life. Thank you. And again, that's from A Splinter of Love by Mark Matusik. I love that. I could read that. I could read that every day. I could make it a part of my Oh, my daily reminder of the essence of grief. So just being with that, with being with what is loss and what is grief, and how grief can allow us to see ourselves in a different new light and dig deeper and find different parts of ourselves that we didn't even maybe know exist or had lost touch with. And I've done shows, I've done programs on people that have gone through horrific grief and how it's transformed them and how they may have a new career, a new hobby, even a new profession because of grief. So that's why I love discussing grief, because if we can start to talk about it, we are tapping into a vein of gold, a well of wealth that can add so much richness to our lives and bring us closer together, connect us even more so. So I want you to just be with that for a few minutes, and I'm going to ask Joe to take us to a break. And then when I come back, I want to talk a little bit more about what to say and what not to say. But before we go to break, I want Joe to just, Joe, can you put up what our theme for today is? Preparing for the holidays. Grief doesn't take a day off. And we are going to discuss our theme of preparing for the holidays because grief doesn't take a day off. I just thought it should have some background that we can build on for grief and then move it into the holidays. So the last half of the show, we will discuss holiday grief. But for now, we'll just take a break and come back, and I'll just share with you some do's and don'ts, tips and tools of being with grievers or being with yourself as a griever. So I'll be back.
New Thought Radio, music from all your favorite New Thought artists. From Jamie Lula, Karen Drucker, Gary Lynn Floyd, Ricky Byers, Daniel Nahmod, Eddie Watkins Jr., and many, many more. 24/7 New Thought Radio. Positively inspiring.
Hello there. Thank you, Joe, for bringing us back or bringing me back. So I was just going over what loss and grief, that grief is caused by loss, and just talking about how grief can how can I say this, have magical fingers or work some magic in our lives to get us to be more deeply in touch with ourselves. And so I thought I found this beautiful article by Shelby for Cynthia on some of the things of what to say and what not to say to a griever or to yourself, because we say the very same things to ourselves that we would say to someone else. And so want to give you an opportunity to learn some new phrases of being with those in grief. So many times people will say, oh, I didn't call or I didn't check in with that person after I found out about their loss because I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. And I didn't want to make it worse than it already is. It's like sometimes by not saying anything or doing anything, you have done exactly what it is that you did not want to happen, made it worse. When you talk to people that have had losses and are in grief, and they'll just say, I didn't have anybody to talk to. People didn't come around. You could feel that you were being ignored. And my sister, in her case, when her husband died suddenly, and she went back to work, she said she could see people coming down the hall, but they would see her and suddenly go in a different direction. So I feel that if we did know what to say, or if we did have some phrases that we could employ when we want to be there to comfort, that we just discuss that. But also, what I really want you to know, and never underestimate, just the value of your presence. Sometimes you don't have to say anything, or most of the time you don't have to say anything. And you could always use, I wish I had words that could bring you comfort. I wish I knew what to say. So anyway, what I will offer, okay, instead of saying, oh, look on the bright side, maybe what you could say is, of course. If they're sad or we're broken, and really in despair, you can say, of course. Which is an open statement. It doesn't shut it down. Like, look on the bright side. It's like, oh, okay, well, let me stop. Versus, of course, invite someone to continue a dialogue. And what about this one? You're being too sensitive. Instead, try saying, I can see how you got there. I can see how you got there. And another one that sometimes people use because they feel that it will make the person feel better is that they wouldn't want you to feel whatever it is that they're expressing. Instead, just say, it makes sense that you would feel whatever they're expressing. If they're saying, I'm just weary and tired, you can just say, it makes sense that you would feel weary and tired. You want to validate where they are versus, as I said, shutting them down. And I was just going to ask you to think of a time maybe when someone made you feel oversensitive or ridiculous, weird, or too much for feeling a certain way. What do you wish they had said instead? Just take a minute. Pause and think if someone made you feel less than for feeling a certain way around your grief. What is it that you wish they had said? One comes to mind in my own grief. I remember, my father had died. My father's been transitioned or gone for a long time, many years ago. But I was married and my first husband, and I was just overcome with grief. It was just the next day after my father had died. And I was starting to just sob, and my ex-husband said, oh, no. Come on, you got to be strong. You got to be strong. And what I wish he would have said was just, here, put your head on my shoulder. Or just, I understand. And something that simple, for me, I felt could have been so kind and so healing in that moment. And sometimes we have to ask for what we need. Okay? Asking from others what we need. And sometimes the question may be, can you acknowledge that this is a hard thing to go through? Maybe that's what I could have said back at that time. But living and learning and moving forward, going forward, I would say that, can you acknowledge that this is a hard thing to go through? Or I would rather you tell me it's okay to have these feelings. And one last asking permission from others is, I know that it won't be like this forever, but I wish you could validate what I'm going through today. And being okay with asking for what you need. I know we do live in a culture where we're supposed to be seen as being independent, not needing each other for anything. We can really handle it all ourselves. But this is one of the gifts of grief. It reminds us, allows us to see how much better we feel when we are supported, when we are asking for help and getting what we need, having our needs met. And Shelby Forth Cynthia goes on to say, permission granting for yourself. She said, just ask, where can I be kinder or gentler to myself in grief? Have you thought about that one? Where can I be kinder or gentler to myself in grief? I'm finding that when I can be kinder and gentler with myself in grief, I can be kinder and gentler for others in grief. Another question you may want to ask is, where am I feeling trapped or muzzled? Where am I feeling trapped or muzzled? Is it in a certain group situation? Is it when you're out with close friends even, that you feel like maybe you're not really speaking what's really in your heart? And I love this. If life, my friends, my job gave me a free pass, what would that look like? If you got a free pass in any of these areas, what would that pass look like? And that is something that you can sit with and just maybe, I don't know how many people actually journal. I know a lot of people do. And I say, even if you don't journal, even though journaling is great, just being patient with yourself as you write, give yourself time to write. You know, maybe if you want to set a timer, you can do that to write. And I love this writing. You can say, I'm going to write to my grief today. And I love that. Say, I'm going to write to my grief for 10 minutes today. Just start writing and don't lift the pen for 10 minutes. Don't lift the pen. See what comes up, what unfolds with that. And I see that we have a dear friend who's on listening, Dolly Bear, Fireside. Love that name, Dolly Bear. And Dolly Bear says, thank you. And I want to thank you for being here. And knowing, Dolly Bear, that whatever you find here that is useful, please share it. Please share it with friends and loved ones, or even people that you may meet that are not friends. You may strike up a conversation and someone will say, oh, my, partner died, or I just got divorced, or just lost a good friendship. People don't always share so deeply, just spontaneously like that. But if you can make it a point to be ready to support with open ears, that is how we can have this moving forward and out into the world. And I want to talk a little bit about permission blocking and what that sounds like when someone says to you, or it's said to anyone, aren't you over it by now? It's like, whoa, that's a big judgment. Don't you feel the judgment in that? Like, ooh, I don't think I'd want to speak anymore. But instead of saying, aren't you over it by now? Offer, let's sit with this a minute. Let's sit with this a minute. Another one that blocks permission is you need to be strong for others. What you could say instead is, it's okay to feel that way. It's okay to feel that way. And how about this? I'm sure you've heard this. Some places it's called disenfranchisement grief. So this would be one of those. I can't believe you're this upset. It was just a dog or just a graduation ceremony. Instead, offer, that sounds really hard. If you could have anything right now, what would it be? Just giving permission to others to continue sharing what's in their hearts, sharing their grief. Just be with that for a minute. And I want to ask you, what could you do to give others permission to grieve? What could you do? Just looking over the ways that you grant yourself permission to grieve. What's one thing you can do to grant others permission to grieve as well? And that's why we're having this conversation. That's why I'm having this conversation. Because I know that if I can allow myself to grieve and discuss grief, when I'm with others, I can allow them to grieve and discuss their grief. So just sit with that. Just sit with that a minute. What can you do to give others permission to grieve? Yeah, so breathe into that and be with that for a few minutes. We're going to take a break, and then we'll come back to discuss our theme, holiday grief, preparing for the holidays, and knowing that grief does not take a day off. So I'll be right back after this break. Hello, that was quick. I am right back. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about holiday grief. Yay, the holidays are here. And well, the holidays have already started. Let's just be real about that the holidays have already started. And I like to say they started with, I was going to say Dia de los Muertos, but no. Started with Halloween. For lots of people, that is a big time to start with celebrations and decorations. And I think Halloween kind of kicks it off, because then Dia de los Muertos, and I think in American culture, I want to say that we All Saints Day is another, but it's not celebrated to the extent of Dia de los Muertos, not by a long shot. That's a big, big day in the Latin culture. And as you know, I'm living in Mexico for the last couple of years, though I'm in California today. It's a big celebration. I mean, they are able to just do death in a way that makes it a lightness of spirit. It's a lightheartedness. It's a joyous celebration. It's like sometimes like even joking with death. You know, I dare you a game of do or die or dare with death, with just the way that they honor the dead. Um, I did a show a couple weeks ago. You can go back and look at that program. It was like, why honor Dia de los Muertos? And they do exactly what I want to talk about for holiday traditions here of making an altar for their ancestors or those that have gone before. Altar could have family or friends, but um, having that quite visible, I mean, outside of the home. It's not even just in your house, outside on the sidewalk. It's not unusual to have a sidewalk blocked by an altar. And for me, I can't help but look at the pictures and just pay honor to that person's family, or just acknowledge that they're honoring their family. That's what I was going to say today at Dia de los Muertos, but you can go back and watch that. Excuse me. So, and then right now in the US, we're getting ready for, drum roll please, or turkey leg drum roll, Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is coming up, and then we're going to move into Hanukkah, and we'll have Christmas. Oh, Christmas Eve and Christmas. And then we'll move into Kwanzaa, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. And a couple articles I've been reading even says, oh, and you know, the Super Bowl is a holiday. But all of these big days that we celebrate can just really bring up a lot of our losses, which then in turn puts us into grief. With the holidays, it feels like, is that the word I want to say? With holidays, the yearning, especially for our loved ones, the ones that have gone before us, there's a strong yearning to be with them, to celebrate with them. There's a yearning for old traditions that we had with the ones that have gone before us. I personally have that issue when it comes to Christmas. My mother was born on Christmas Day, and she was just a tyrant about, when you call, the first thing you must say is happy birthday. I don't want to hear Merry Christmas. It's like, happy birthday. It's my birthday. And she felt like she'd waited the entire year for this special day, and she did not want to be slighted in the least bit. And it was so funny because not only did you have to say happy birthday first and then Merry Christmas, you also had to have two gifts, one birthday and one Christmas. And if you really had to have one, if you could really only do one gift, it had to be big. It had to be spectacular. So I say that because now for me, Christmas Day, my mom has been gone, I think it's 7 years. I still have not replaced the word I want to say. Replace that day with something significant or a new tradition. If anything, I think the last few years have just been allowing myself to feel the emptiness of that loss, the emptiness of it, that void. And each year I keep saying, oh, this is the year I'm going to create a new ritual for Christmas Day. Um, but so far, I have not done anything with that. Um, I'm planning to visit my daughter and granddaughter and son-in-law in Ireland for Christmas. Maybe that's what I can start doing. Uh, Irish Christmas. Um, that's a country that does Christmas really big because everybody's so family oriented. So what I want to say is now's the time to know, just to know that this is coming up. And what I want to say during this holiday season is just self-care, being ruthless with self-care, making you number one, taking care of yourself, allowing yourself to be fully rested, being with people that you enjoy being with. That is a part of self-care. Too many times, especially during the holiday, we will think, oh, I should be over there. Oh, I should be with those people. Oh, I should be. It's like, no, this is not the time to should on yourself, okay? Think about what it is and who it is that you want to be with. And make that and allow your decision to be based on that. So many times I've heard people say, oh, I want to be with the family. It could be their, last Christmas that Uncle Joey or Uncle Bobby or whoever drives you absolutely nuts, bonkers, will be alive to celebrate the holidays with us. It's like, how about this? This could be your last holiday to celebrate. So who would you want to celebrate that holiday with? So think about that. And also, what traditions bring you complete joy? What traditions bring you complete joy? I am just wondering if Dolly Bear is still there. That kind of rhymes, Dolly Bear, they're still there. What holiday traditions do you have that you partake or participate in? Um, Living in Mexico, I've suddenly kind of like, not quite um, with a lot of the holiday, not quite with all the holiday traditions that are there, because a lot of people are expats from other countries, and the Mexican culture, it's a very Catholic holiday, which is okay. I have nothing against that, but just still trying to find my way around with those holiday traditions. And I am going to just bring this up so I can talk to you about some things or offer some things that you could do for traditions. And as you know, traditions are really what brings families together, bring our societies together. And sometimes, changing our traditions can be a way of having a new start after the loss of a loved one. And I'm saying loved ones because this is a time that people usually refer feeling and really yearning to have connection with those that are lost. So that's why I'm going to focus this a little bit more right now about the loss of our loved ones. And so I just wanted to offer you some things that maybe you could do, and some ideas that you could think about, lean into, be with. One is write a letter, or as I talked about, a journal or a grief journal, or write a letter, a grief journal, or an unsent letter expressing your feelings at this time. You could do that. You could write a letter to your loved one just so that they know, how you feel. And that allows you to have that catharsis that's so needed, to get it up and out. Um, I recently learned of a friend's transition, and I wrote her a letter, and then I allowed her to write me back. And that was such a balm to my soul, such a healing moment to do that. And I really just sat with that and allowed myself to be with what came up. And this goes, okay, and this is what I've suggested. After you compose the letter, place it in a memory box, an album drawer, or you may also leave it at a memorial site, or you can burn it or let the ashes rise. Whatever you feel is right. Whatever you feel is right after you write that letter. If you have an altar, you could put that letter on the altar. Another suggestion was a memory tree. Everyone in the family can make an ornament in honor of that person's memory. So make it a personal memory. Make an ornament for that. That's just one suggestion. Oh, also, yes, make their favorite food. Make their favorite food. That's always, and then everybody can partake and share, and you can say, oh, this is Grandma Gladys's special chocolate cake that she loved, and only she made it, and it was always so good. And it's like sharing a deep personal memory of that person. The other is, I like this. I heard this, that another family, when someone transitioned and they would meet for Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas dinner, that wherever ever at the table that person would sit, the youngest person in the family would then sit there, just to show that continuation of the life cycle. That grandpa left or great grandma left, but now here's a new being in that chair. And also, you could just have a place set for that person at the table. Each person could write a little note and put it on the plate, or you could just have the place set with a flower on it if you don't want to do any more than that. So, I was going to say my family, you can always light a candle. Always lighting a candle is a very ritualistic way of honoring those that have passed on or transitioned. In my family, we have 4 rocks. It's for Kaiser Permanente, not advertising for them. I'll just say a local hospital has a memory garden, and it's all rocks. It's huge rocks that you would buy, and you have them engraved with your loved one's name on it. And so those rocks are then placed in that garden of memories. So we went to visit that last year on that day, just to honor them, to say, yes, we're here thinking about you. And that's something that you can do if it feels good to do. So just knowing that next week we're going to delve even further into preparing for the holidays. And what I want to say, if you don't catch me next week, or if whatever happens and you can't get back, I just ask you to please make a plan. Plans can always change, but don't let the day come and that you are like, I don't have anybody to be with. I'm not invited anywhere. Just have a plan of how you will navigate through the day. Know that plans could always change. Something even better could come up than what you've planned, but at least have a plan. So I just want you to do that. I want just the very best for you for this holiday season, for it not to be so painful, and the need to to grieve is still strong, and surrounding yourself with those people that can support that. And I want to, before I close, I want to read a poem. I'm just trying to decide if I want to do a little promo for the other shows. I think I'll do a little promo for some of the other programs on New Thought Media Network before I read the poem. And I think I'll close with the poem. And the poem is Prayers for the Dead. But before we do that, I want to just give gratitude and thanks to New Thought Media Network. Know that you can make a donation to New Thought Media Network. There you go. Thank you, Joe. ntmedia.org/donate. Donate so that we can continue to have great programming here, great programs here for you. Every day, did you know that every day on New Thought Media, twice a day at 8:15 a.m. Mountain Time and 8:15 p.m. Mountain Time is prayer time. 15 minutes. You can get a recharge, you can get a reboot, you can connect with the day. But every day that is on New Thought Media Network. I have some other people that are just wonderful hosts of their shows. One is Choice, Your Superpower with Zoe DeMoro. And that is on at 12 noon Mountain Time, 11 o'clock Pacific if you're here. But anyway, Choice, Your Creative Superpower. Yes, and then we have Reverend Jim Webb, who has his show on Sundays, and that's 6 o'clock Mountain Time, and it's The Miracle of Prosperity. He is just a lively, vivacious young man. Really get your energies up and going. And also we have Fireside Chat on Friday evenings. Yes, with the one and only Reverend Michael Mangus, who was my guest last week. If you didn't catch it, go back and watch it. He does some really, really great tips on navigating the holiday. We had a lively discussion last week. And then on Tuesdays, there's prayer, poetry, and practice. I think that's a relatively new program, but not new. I think it's on now for a minute. And that's by Tracy Brown, a practitioner, Tracy Brown. And then my dear darling friend, Gina Krupka, has Joy in the Journey, which you must check out on Thursdays. That is wonderful, 3 p.m. Mountain Time. It's the time for her program, Joy in the Journey. If I am incorrect, please correct me, because I think it's the same time that my show airs on Monday, and I'm at 12 noon Pacific time, but 1 Mountain Time. So she's 1 Mountain Time. So check that out. Oh my goodness. There's no reason to navigate this holiday season with any sense of aloneness or separateness. We are here for you. There's just programming galore for you here. Joe, if you could put up that program schedule just so that you can get a visual idea of, look at that. That's just chocked full of all kinds of goodies. And so want to make sure that you are not left out. Know that you always have, you can just tune into New Thought Media. All of the recordings are recorded for previewing at another time. So don't think, oh, I missed that show. Oh, daggone it, too bad. No, you can go ahead and look. It's definitely recorded. So I just want to thank you. And just to say, I can't believe we're bringing another year to a close. That is just unbelievable. And I offered in the beginning to just taking inventory of your life for losses that need to be mourned or grieved for, but also taking inventory of moments of gratitude, things that you can be in gratitude for. That's always a good healing balm, to just start with gratitude, with wherever you are, just being grateful. If it's we're together, I'm in gratitude for that. I get to talk about my favorite subject, which is grief, which I know is touching lives and helping people. So I'm in gratitude for that. So with that, I promised that I would read a poem. Um, but I want to say this: I am a grief coach. And if you feel that your grief is just overwhelming you and pulling you under and you can't seem to get your footing, I invite you to reach out. Yes, you can reach out to me. You can find me at bonniegonzalez14 at gmail.com. Oh, and also I should say that if you want to go back and just watch any of the previous episodes of Your Doula for Grief, you can find me on YouTube at Your Doula for Grief on YouTube. So do like and subscribe. And that way, yes, you will not miss out on any program. You can go back and peruse through the recordings that I have there and see if something strikes your fancy. See if something speaks to you today, like, oh, I'd really like to check out that broadcast that she was talking about on Dia de los Muertos, or grieving the loss of a sibling, or loss of health, geographical moves. Yes, there's tons of topics and subjects to choose from. So with that, I just say thank you for watching, and I will look forward to seeing you next time. And I am going to close with this prayer for the dead. Okay. At the rising of the sun and its going down, we remember you. We remember them. At the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember them. At the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember them. At the blueness of the skies and in the warmth of summer, we remember them. At the rustling of leaves and the beauty of autumn, we remember them. At the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. As long as we live, they too will live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them. When we are weary and in need for strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember them. When we have decisions that are difficult to make, we remember them. When we have advancements that are based on theirs, we remember them. As long as we live, they too shall live, for they are a part of us as we remember them. And yes, remember them. In this moment, I remember my father, Leroy speaks, my mother, Gladys speaks, my dear darling sister, Linda speaks, and my brother, Charlie speaks. They are here, right here with me, right now. So with that, I thank you for listening, and I want to just leave you with, I want you to go and look in the mirror and look yourself in the eye and just say, what do I need today? What do I need today? Whatever that answer is, I want you to honor it and give it to yourself. So until we're back next week, remember that we remember them. Big love. Thank you. Namaste.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hepperlin Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Spiritual Center, Kitchener, Om Center for Spiritual Living, La Mesa, Satya Center, Center for Spiritual Living, North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and Center for Spiritual Living, Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for making New Thought Media Network a place to be. Please come be you. And remember, like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.